4 months into our marriage, my addictions that I'd done really nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens.
Nicole Kidman filed for divorce from her husband of 19 years.
Now comes the shocking news that Keith Urban moved out of their home at the beginning of this summer and has his own place in Nashville. There's also a report that he's seeing another woman.
$325 million, 11 properties, and one prenup clause so ruthless it's earned a nickname whispered in every Hollywood law office, the cocaine clause. This isn't just another celebrity split. This is Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's billion-dollar endgame. A divorce so carefully engineered, it feels less like heartbreak and more like a war plan. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to 2005. Nicole was fresh out of the shadow of her high-profile split with Tom Cruise, still carrying the scars of custody battles and public scrutiny. Keith Urban, meanwhile, was country music's golden boy, the charming guitar-slinger America had fallen head over boots for. The night they met at a Los Angeles gala, tabloids were all over it. Within a year, they were married in Sydney in a ceremony that looked like a royal coronation. Paparazzi swarmed the streets, helicopters circled overhead, and the world swooned at the fairy tale unfolding in real time. The narrative was irresistible. Hollywood's icy queen finally found her down-to-earth country boy. But while fans were busy swooning, the cracks were already there, because fairy tales in Hollywood rarely end with happily ever after. More often, they end in courtrooms. And in Nicole and Keith's case, the first crack wasn't just emotional. It was written into their love story in cold legal ink. Just 4 months after that glittering wedding in 2006, the headlines flipped from romance to rehab. Keith Urban, the charming, grinning star who seemed like Nicole's second chance at love, checked himself into treatment for cocaine and alcohol addiction. Fans were shocked. The man who had been painted as Nicole's steady anchor suddenly looked like he was sinking. Nicole, though, played the role of unwavering wife. She stood by his side, telling fans this was a test of love, and they praised her loyalty. She looked like the hero in a storybook marriage that had been knocked off course but not broken. But behind the scenes, Nicole wasn't just playing the doting spouse. She was playing chess. Her legal team quietly inserted a new clause into their prenuptial agreement, a clause tied directly to Keith's sobriety. If he ever relapsed, Nicole could walk away with her entire fortune protected, no messy negotiations, no dragged-out battles, just a clean break. It was ruthless. Publicly, she was the devoted partner holding her husband's hand through rehab. Privately, she was safeguarding a $250 million empire. Fans saw love, lawyers saw strategy. And that one clause, born in the aftermath of rehab, would later become Hollywood legend, the cocaine clause. And nearly 2 decades later, that clause came back with a vengeance, right when the fairy tale finally shattered. September 2025. TMZ drops a headline that freezes Hollywood in its tracks. Nicole Kidman has filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 18 years of marriage. Within minutes, the internet erupted. Fans who had clung to their love story as proof that Hollywood marriages could last were gutted. One tweet went viral. If Nicole and Keith can't make it, what hope is there for the rest of us? The story quickly spiraled. Sources whispered that Keith had a new woman in his life, a detail tabloids couldn't resist splashing across every feed. But here's the truth. When a $325 million fortune is on the table, affairs are just sparks on the surface. The real fire is the legal war smoldering beneath. Divorces of this size don't happen overnight. They're planned like military campaigns, with lawyers combing through financial records, mapping property divisions, and dusting off prenups that were drafted nearly 2 decades earlier. By the time TMZ got the scoop, Nicole and Keith's split wasn't breaking news. It was already a battlefield in motion. To fans, it looked like heartbreak. To insiders, it looked inevitable. Because in Hollywood, endings aren't just emotional, they're strategic. And when the battle lines were drawn, the first war zone wasn't a courtroom, it was real estate. When Hollywood marriages implode, the tabloids love to obsess over cheating rumors and courtroom tears. But the real fight isn't fought in sound bites, it's fought in square footage. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban didn't just own houses, they built an empire, 11 luxury properties across 3 continents, worth an estimated $56 million. And every single address carries both emotional weight and strategic value. Take Nashville. Their sprawling mansion, originally bought for $4.8 million, has ballooned in value to nearly $9 million. For Keith, it isn't just a house, it's the spiritual headquarters of his career, the place where he recorded music, hosted industry insiders, and grounded himself in country culture. For him, Nashville is identity. Then there's Manhattan, a $6.5 million apartment overlooking Central Park, often described as Nicole's private sanctuary. Away from flashing cameras and movie sets, it was her safe haven, a quiet perch where she could disappear into anonymity while still living among New York's elite. Across the ocean, their rustic Sydney farmhouse wasn't just a retreat. It was Nicole's anchor to her homeland, a tie to her Australian roots where she'd escape between projects to recharge. To her, it's more than real estate. It's a piece of herself. And that's only part of the portfolio. Add in Beverly Hills, other U.S. investments, and global retreats, and you're looking at chess pieces on a property board that rivals corporate holdings. But here's where it gets icy. Analysts have noted that some of these properties have outperformed the stock market in appreciation, which means the mansions, penthouses, and farmhouses aren't just sentimental trophies, they're financial weapons. As divorce proceedings ramp up, Nicole is said to be fighting hard to keep both the Sydney estate and the New York apartment, properties that reinforce her global image as both Hollywood royalty and Australia's favorite daughter. Keith, meanwhile, is locked on Nashville, the crown jewel of his career's identity. These homes aren't just assets to be divided, they're leverage points, they're trophies, they're symbols. And in a split of this scale, they're bargaining chips that carry more weight than any tabloid headline. Because in a $325 million divorce, love isn't measured in years, it's measured in square footage. But no property, no mansion, no penthouse carries the kind of power that one single line in their prenup does. The infamous cocaine clause. Buried deep in the fine print of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's prenup is a single clause so infamous it's whispered about in Hollywood like an urban legend, the cocaine clause. Here's how it works. If Keith ever relapsed into drug use, Nicole could walk away with her entire fortune protected. No messy courtroom brawls, no years of negotiations, no half-and-half split, just a clean, decisive exit. Nicole keeps it all. If, on the other hand, the marriage ended under normal circumstances, Keith would walk away with a guaranteed payout, about $11.4 million. A fortune for most people, but when stacked against Nicole's estimated $250 million empire, it's pocket change. And that's what makes this prenup so remarkable. It wasn't drafted out of panic during a scandal. It was inserted strategically after Keith's 2006 rehab stint, a cold, calculated move disguised as love's protection. Nicole didn't just hope her marriage would survive his demons, she insured herself in case it didn't. Legal experts have called it one of the savviest clauses in Hollywood history, not because it punished Keith, but because it protected Nicole with surgical precision. Publicly, she looked like the wife who saved him. Privately, she was the wife who made sure his addiction couldn't destroy her empire. And she's not alone in wielding prenups like weapons. Britney Spears protected her fortune from Kevin Federline with strict financial terms. Jessica Simpson reportedly had a prenup clause tied to weight fluctuations. Jeff Bezos, he skipped the prenup entirely. And when his marriage imploded, it cost him a jaw-dropping $38 billion. By comparison, Nicole's prenup isn't just smart. It belongs in what lawyers call Hollywood's prenup Hall of Fame. Equal parts emotional armor and strategic genius, it's a clause that has transformed what might have been just another celebrity split into a high-stakes legal spectacle. And now, nearly 20 years after it was drafted, that clause isn't just a piece of paper, it's the ticking time bomb at the center of a $325 million divorce. But in Hollywood divorces, money is only part of the fight. The real leverage, the kind that can tilt the entire battlefield, is custody. And for Nicole, that's where things turns deeply personal. If there's one thing in a celebrity divorce that cuts deeper than real estate or bank accounts, it's custody. Because unlike houses or royalties, custody isn't just about ownership. It's about identity, leverage, and legacy. And for Nicole Kidman, it's a wound she's lived through before. Back in the 1990s, when her marriage to Tom Cruise imploded, Nicole lost daily custody of their two adopted children, Isabella and Connor. The public didn't see the behind-the-scenes agony, but those close to her say it left scars that never fully healed. She almost never spoke about it. But the silence said enough. Losing that battle once meant she would never walk into another one unprepared. Fast forward to 2025. Nicole and Keith share two daughters, Sunday Rose, now a teenager, and Faith Margaret, just entering high school. On paper, the divorce filings might look clinical: custody arrangements, parenting schedules, child support calculations. But behind those words lies the most personal fight Nicole has faced since the Cruz split. Reports say she is determined not to let history repeat itself. Sources close to the case suggest Nicole is pushing for primary custody, a move that would anchor her daughters' lives around her, whether in Sydney, New York, or the structured homes she's built outside of the chaos of touring. Keith, meanwhile, is said to be open to shared custody. But here's where the stakes climb. In high-profile divorces, custody is more than who tucks the kids in at night. Family law experts confirm that whoever holds primary custody can dramatically influence child support calculations, property settlements, and even control over how much of the other spouse's future earnings remain on the table. In other words, custody equals leverage, and Nicole knows it. Behind the serene, composed public image is a strategist who understands the financial domino effect custody can unleash. Winning primary custody doesn't just protect her daughters emotionally, it could tilt the entire $325 million legal board in her favor. The irony? In Hollywood, custody battles are rarely about parenting alone. They're power plays dressed up as bedtime schedules. And in this divorce, custody could become the sharpest weapon Nicole wields. But the fight isn't just over what they already have. The bigger storm is over what's still to come, the future millions that haven't even been earned yet. Dividing up the money they already have is one thing, but in Hollywood, the bigger fight is often over the money that hasn't even been earned yet. And in the case of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, future income could be what decides who really walks away ahead. Nicole's career is a fortress. She's one of the highest-paid actresses in the world, with a string of blockbuster films, streaming deals, and lucrative endorsements. Under the terms of the prenup, every new contract she signs, whether it's a major film role, a production credit, or a multi-million-dollar brand campaign, stays firmly under her control. None of it gets pulled into the divorce. Every paycheck going forward is protected. Keith's situation is far more precarious. His tours are massive moneymakers, often raking in tens of millions per year. The catch? Touring income isn't as neatly walled off as Nicole's film contracts. Depending on how custody and support negotiations shake out, Keith's future touring profits could be recalculated and partially redirected into spousal or child support obligations. In other words, the very thing that defines his career could become Nicole's leverage. And this isn't just theory, history shows exactly how it plays out. Kelly Clarkson's divorce from Brandon Blackstock didn't just drain her once in a lump sum, it locked her into paying a staggering $45,000 in monthly child support on top of a one-time multi-million-dollar settlement. Paul McCartney, one of the savviest businessmen in music, still walked away nearly $50 million lighter after his split from Heather Mills. Even billionaires aren't immune. Jeff Bezos' $38 billion divorce settlement didn't just divide his fortune, it reshaped Amazon's shareholder map overnight. The lesson? Prenups set the stage, but future earnings rewrite the script. And right now, Nicole's future earnings are untouchable, while Keith's remain exposed. Analysts warn that this means the $325 million headline figure could balloon. Royalties from music catalogs, streaming rights, touring contracts, and residuals have a way of creeping back into the courtroom years after the ink on a divorce is dry. If Nicole secures primary custody, as reports suggest, Keith's future millions might not just be his. They could become part of an ongoing financial tether, one that ensures Nicole and her daughters are financially insulated long after the divorce is finalized. But money and property only tell part of the story. The real twist comes when you realize this divorce wasn't just shocking for what happened. It was shocking for what had already been happening in secret, long before anyone knew. The headline shocked Hollywood in September 2025. But the truth? The end had been unfolding for months, hidden in plain sight. Let's rewind. In late June, Nicole posted a glowing anniversary tribute on Instagram. Happy anniversary, baby! Alongside a romantic photo. To the outside world, it looked like two soulmates celebrating nearly 2 decades of devotion. But behind closed doors, the fairy tale was already dead. Reports confirm that Keith had quietly moved out earlier that summer, setting up his own place in Nashville. And by August 1st, he had signed a parenting plan, a detailed legal document spelling out custody arrangements for their daughters. That's not something you whip up overnight. That takes lawyers, negotiations, and weeks of discussion. In other words, while fans were double-tapping anniversary posts, Nicole and Keith were sitting across from attorneys, carving up the future of their family. The mask didn't slip until September 29th, when news broke that the separation was official. One day later, Nicole filed for divorce in Nashville, and suddenly every smiling red carpet appearance from earlier that year looked like a performance. And that's what left fans reeling. It wasn't just the split itself. It was the realization that they had been sold a love story that was already over. The ACM Awards in May, where they walked hand in hand. The anniversary posts in June. Keith's gushing public tributes in 2024, calling Nicole the woman who saved him from his demons. All of it now reads like scripted theater. The betrayal isn't just that the marriage ended, it's that the marriage we saw in 2025 wasn't real at all. For months, they projected perfection while privately drafting custody percentages and dividing up assets. To fans, that's worse than the divorce itself, discovering that the couple they held up as proof of lasting love was already negotiating its funeral. It's a pattern we've seen before in Hollywood. The performance of marriage, maintained for cameras, brand deals, and fan approval, long after the actual relationship has collapsed. But few cases have felt this stark, because for Nicole and Keith, the disconnect between public love and private strategy wasn't just subtle. It was shocking. And so we're left with the ultimate question. In a divorce where fortunes, clauses, properties, and even the truth itself are weaponized, who really walks away the winner? On paper, the answer looks simple. Nicole Kidman walks away with the bulk of her $250 million fortune intact, her most prized properties, her future earnings locked down by a prenup that now feels like prophecy. Keith Urban, he gets his guaranteed $11.4 million payout. Life-changing for almost anyone, but a mere footnote in the world they live in. But numbers don't tell the whole story. Keith still has his tours, his fans, and possibly leverage through custody negotiations that could quietly shape his financial future for years. Nicole, meanwhile, may have secured her empire, but she also secured something else. Control. Control of her daughters' daily lives, control of the narrative, and control of the board where this entire high-stakes game is being played. Yet, when you peel back the layers, the mansions, the prenup clauses, the strategic custody battles, a darker question hangs in the air. Does anyone actually win? Because what started as a whirlwind romance has unraveled into a case study in contracts and calculations. Every vow, every kiss on the red carpet, every smiling anniversary post, all of it, in hindsight, looks like moves in a game neither of them could afford to lose. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy here, that in a world where love is written into prenups and guarded by legal teams, it's not about happily ever after. It's about who gets to leave the table with more than just memories. So ask yourself, if the perfect couple was really just a performance, what does that make the rest of us who believed in it?